Hello everyone, my name is Zenitsu and I'm back with another Digimon deck profile video. So today I'm going to be taking a look at EX3, and EX3 offers us lots of new and powerful tools to be able to build and iterate on some new and existing decks. And today's deck I'm going to be taking a look at isn't really anything new. So Yellow Hybrids, like any other hybrid-based deck, is going to try to utilize its Tamers and build a wide field of Tamers, and then Digivolve on top of them with a lot of memory that our Tamers generated to be able to formulate some really powerful push turns. And our mid-game actions is going to involve a lot of healing and removing of the opponent's Digimon to try to put them off of their game plan as much as we possibly can. So with all that said and done, let's just dive right into the deck profile. Starting off with the Digitama, because we're not really utilizing a whole lot of level 3 Digimon, we don't need the full 5 eggs, so 4 Upamon is good enough just because Upamon is one of the best generic yellow eggs, acting as some extra card draw. Then, speaking of our level 3s, next I'm going to be running 2 copies of Salamon. So this is the BT2 Salamon as a really good level 3 Digimon to aggress with, because we want this card to die for its on delete ability to allow us to recover 1 when our security is low enough, so that way we could try to have some way to be able to have extra recovery to keep us in the game as long as we possibly can. Next, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Pillowmon. So Pillowmon is just an anti-meta tech card, stopping the opponent from being able to play Digimon by card effects. So we're not playing any Digimon by our card effects, so this card really doesn't hurt us at all, and there are some decks this card really doesn't do a whole lot of, but in the decks that it is good against, it's a very powerful and devastating card, forcing them to get rid of this before they could do some of their more powerful actions. And then the last rookie of the deck is going to be 4 copies of Patamon. So this is the starter deck version of Patamon, and it's in here for some extra memory generation with some of our various other cards when we're deleting the opponent's Digimon by DP reduction effects. Next, on to the level 4s, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Kazemon. So Kazemon is going to be one of the mainstead hybrids of the deck to use to mostly Digivolve on top of our Tamers for 2, rather than Digivolve on top of our level 3s for 2, so that way we could formulate some very powerful push turns when we need to utilize this card. And similarly, we're going to be running 4 copies of Zephyrmon for that same style of play. Zephyrmon does have a Wind Digivolving ability, but we don't necessarily care about it too much. Most of the time, like Kazemon, we're just going to Digivolve it for 2 on top of our yellow Tamers to be able to formulate some pretty aggressive push turns, or use it to try to climb the evolutionary ladder as fast as we possibly can. And then the last champion of the deck is going to be 3 copies of Rapidmon. So this is the BT8 version of Rapidmon, and even though we're not playing any Terriermons, this is where the Patamon comes in handy to act as a good inheritable source to use with our Rapidmon. He has the nice Armor Purge ability, so we could be aggressive with this card if we want to, so that way when he dies, he basically just de-digivolves himself back into the level 3 or whatever was underneath him, so we could try to keep a body around, and when we do Digivolve into him, we get to suspend one of the opponent's Digimon for each Tamer we have in play, so the more Tamers we have, the more Digimon we could suspend, which is pretty good because up to 3 of the opponent's suspended Digimon, which he just suspended, we get to DP reduce it by 5,000 DP, which is pretty strong, allowing us to be able to beat into a wide variety of targets or just be able to delete wide fields of weaker Digimon. Next, on to the level 5s, I'm going to be running 1 copy of JetSilphymon. So JetSilphymon was so powerful that it needed to get limited to 1, just because of how efficient this card is. So this card basically can Digivolve for 1 on top of a Digimon with a Tamer in its inheritable source, which is off of our hybrid Digimon. So that's just really good on tempo, being able to climb our stages as quickly as we possibly can. And she even has a nice upside for Digivolving into this card, where if we Digivolved it on top of a hybrid Digimon, which of course we did because we wanted to Digivolve it for 1, we're going to have the ability to just recover 1. There is no requirements or restrictions outside of that Digivolving on top of a hybrid, making it just one of the best recovery tools that the deck has to work with. And then similarly, I'm going to be running 3 copies of Shakuamon. So Shakuamon we're playing mostly because of its when Digivolving ability to help us recover 1. There is a condition where we have to have 5 or fewer cards in our security, which is not very hard at all to attain or achieve, but regardless, just that generic recovery is what we're utilizing the card for. We could, if we wanted to, try to line up some DNA action to have even more ways to utilize the card, but we don't necessarily care about the extra ability on its DNA, and we just want that recovery. Then it has a nice inheritable ability for a higher stage Digimon to use, where it's just a nice generic when attacking of just some extra DP reduction. Next, onto the level 6s, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Venusmon. So Venusmon is really the only level 6 that we need, just because our game plan is mostly focused around trying to play our tamers and then digivolve our tamers into our hybrids and aggress with enough memory. So we're just going to casually chip in the meantime and try to be as disruptive towards the opponent, and this is just one of the best disruptive tools in the game for yellow currently. So its when digivolving ability applies a security tech -1 debuff on all of the opponent's Digimon. Doesn't matter if it's coming out of the trash, out of their hand, out of their raising, or was just already on their field. Just that debuff is huge towards stopping some of the potential damage that the opponent has. On top of that, her secondary ability that triggers during the opponent's turn stops the opponent from utilizing their cards efficiently, because as long as they have some form of security tech increase or decrease, doesn't really matter, then they can't attack this Digimon, which makes her a safe Digimon to want to swing with, and all of their when attacking and when digivolving abilities do not activate, which is just pretty powerful at shutting down a lot of the opponent's potential plays. Next, onto the level 7s, I'm going to be running 1 copy of Deathxmon because, of course, it's Deathxmon. He's just a very easy card to slot into any deck, just because as long as the opponent has a wide field of Digimon and Tamers, he's going to reduce his cost by 3 for each of them, which makes him a really easy card to use against specific decks. And he's really powerful against those go-wide decks, just because he has a nice board wipe type of ability to try to help deal with the opponent's field, and some good recursive removal at the end of the opponent's turn, really limiting or trying to limit the actions that they can make and the Digimon that they can play. And then the last Digimon and last level 7 of the deck is going to be 1 copy of Susanomon. So Susanomon is basically just a level 7 hybrid. We're going to try using him when the game goes long enough to digivolve on top of one of our tamers, as long as we have 10 Digimon or tamers with that hybrid in their traits from our hand or trash. Then he just is a really good card to digivolve into, just because we get to delete one of the opponent's Digimon outright, which is pretty decent, and he has security attack +2 to try to deal a lot of damage really quickly. Next, on to the tamers, I'm going to be running 3 copies of Tai and Kari. So Tai and Kari is just a pretty decent tamer, not only acting as a 2-color tamer, so we have access to red and red options, but it's also just helping with the overall memory generation of our deck when our security and the opponent's security is low enough, which we have easy ways to at least trigger one of those sides of the effect. Then on top of that, it has a nice secondary ability to help our Digimon be as aggressive as they possibly can by debuffing the opponent's security Digimon. Next, I'm going to be running 3 copies of TK. So the BT1 version of TK is still one of the best yellow tamers that we have, acting as a really good consistency tool when we play him, so that way we could try to take cards from our security and be able to utilize our security as basically a secondary hand to look through. And then if we do take a card that's yellow, then we get to recover 1, so we're not really losing anything in our security. Then on top of that, he's going to be just the generic memory fixing tamer of the deck to allow us to be able to be as efficient as we possibly can, always being able to start at 3 memory. Next, I'm going to be running 3 copies of TK and Kari. So TK and Kari is another card to help us try to gain as much memory as we possibly can, really punishing the opponent for being aggressive. So as long as our security is lower than the opponent's security, then we get to gain 2 memory, which is just pretty powerful at having access at a lot of different ways to be able to gain memory. Then on top of that, it's adding to the overall removal capabilities of the deck through DP reduction. Next, I'm going to be running 3 copies of Zoe. So Zoe on base is going to be acting very similarly to TK, where it's just going to help us try to be as consistent as we possibly can, utilizing our security as another resource to look through to be able to try to grab cards from. The only restriction is Zoe's looking more specifically for hybrids and 10 warriors, but those are basically the cards we want to try to find anyway, so that way we could utilize them. then she has the upside for being used as a source for our hybrid Digimon by actually having inheritable effect for them, where she's just making our security a little bit more beefier when the opponent is going to be attacking into our security and a Digimon is checked in the security. And then the last tamer of the deck is going to be 2 copies of Cody. So Cody is in the deck for, again, more memory generation passively, where we just need to have a yellow Digimon on our field during our main phase, which is not very hard to do, considering the majority of the cards in the deck are yellow Digimon. Then on top of that, Cody has a nice upside, similarly to TK and Kari, where for attacking with our 2-color Digimon, then he's just going to apply even more DP reduction onto the opponent's Digimon, again, making it easier to control their field with. Then lastly, onto the options, I'm going to be running 1 copy of Reinforcing Memory Boost. So yes, Reinforcing Memory Boost is another card that's so good it needed to be limited down to 1, and it's just helping us dig through our deck, but recover our security all in 1 card, while also having one of the best main abilities of Delay to gain 3 memory versus 2 memory off of a lot of the other memory boosts, so that extra memory just allows us to make more powerful plays possible. Next, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Wyvern's Breath. So Wyvern's Breath is basically the Gaia Force of the deck. It has a nice security ability to activate its main, and its main ability is going to be DP reducing the opponent's Digimon by 15,000, which is just a lot of DP to be reducing all at once. And similarly to that, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Lónkhē Adistakto. So Lónkhē Adistakto is not necessarily the greatest in terms of DP reduction. Wyvern's Breath does have it beat by 3,000, but the utility of having access at different types of removal based on where our security is at is what's making this card so good, because when our security is low enough, then it's basically acting like a Chaos Degradation, where it's putting the opponent's Digimon into their security, so having that alternative form of removal could be really annoying and disruptive towards the opponent's game plan that they might not be expecting. Next, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Yellow Memory Boost. So Yellow Memory Boost is just another consistency card, trying to help it dig out the Digimon we're looking for, and then its secondary main ability of Delay just helps us gain 2 memory to make, again, more powerful plays with when we're trying to push and aggress onto the opponent. And then the last card of the deck is going to be 1 copy of Sunrise Buster. So yes, Sunrise Buster is another card that was so powerful it needed to get limited to 1, and we do have to have the TK and Kari on the field in order to utilize the card. But the upside for utilizing it is just another really powerful removal style of ability, where we get to play a yellow or red tamer from our hand, which is already pretty good because we want to play as many tamers as we possibly can. And then on top of that, being able to DP reduce one of the opponent's Digimon by 3,000 for each red or yellow tamer we have in play could just add up to a lot of DP reduction onto the opponent's Digimon, making it another very powerful security threat the opponent would have to worry about in terms of removal. So in terms of how the overall gameplay and game plan of the deck goes, it is a pretty simple and straightforward deck. You're just going to be hard slamming and trying to play your tamers as efficiently as you possibly can to amass a wide field of them, so that way you could hopefully generate enough memory to be able to digivolve into your hybrids, swing, digivolve into a hybrid, swing, digivolve into a hybrid, swing, and basically rinse and repeat that until the opponent has no security left and you end up claiming the game. Your rookies and the Rapidmon will help add some additional chip factor, and we do have some other really good lines of play to be able to get into a quick and easy Venusmon to try to stop and disrupt the opponent as we're trying to set up. So Patamon is in the deck, like I stated before, mostly to combo with our Rapidmon, so just sitting on a Patamon in raising is already pretty threatening, basically saying I might have the Rapidmon to be able to respond to what you're trying to do, so you might not want to think about doing that, otherwise this play could hard punish them. But if you don't have the Patamon in raising, then you could just freely move out the Salamon or the Pillamon, just because they're decent cards to just sit on the field and either chip into the opponent's security with, or in the case of Salamon, help us try to recover, especially if we have low enough security, then Upamon will help us grant us some extra card draw. But in terms of the use of our hybrids, we almost specifically want to use them on top of our tamers. TK and Zoe are going to be the 2 we actually want to digivolve early on with, so we don't necessarily care about having extra ones of these cards on the field because they're not really doing anything else. So we're just going to try Digivolving on top of them. Zoe obviously is the preferred target because it actually has an inheritable ability, but we're just utilizing this to be hyper aggressive with, or like I said, Digivolve for 1 into a JetSilphymon off of our Kazemon. So just getting up into a level 5 Digimon only costs 3 memory, which is pretty tempo efficient, especially if we have a memory fixing tamer to set us to 3 that allows us to easily go into a Venusmon and then again try to recover off of the JetSilphy and stall with the Venusmon. Even if we don't necessarily have the JetSilphymon, we could still think about using Shikuamon as basically a budget substitute to be able to pass the turn, have a Shikuamon on the field, and be able to aggress with either Rapidmon or Shikuamon with our Cody to again try to DP reduce the opponent's Digimon. Then, like I said before, a lot of our tamers are just trying to help us gain additional memory to be able to line up those power plays where we're just going to be hybrid and swinging over and over again. And the later the game goes, the more threatening things can be just because we have an easier time playing our tamers with more memory, and that's kind of how the deck wants to function, is just trying to out-resource the opponent and gain so much memory and advantage that utilizing our options, our Death Exmon or even Susanomon could be very, very easy for us to use and not pass the turn potentially, depending on the setup and situation. And then there's still just a whole bunch of customization and flexibility that the deck has to offer, all depending on how you want to play it and the types of cards you're thinking about utilizing. So if you wanted to, if TK is a little bit on the expensive side, we could use the BT8 Kari as an alternative memory fixing tamer that also just makes our cards that are going to be adding cards to our security, which there's a decent amount of, a little bit more tempo efficient to use. Then if we're just looking for another 2-color tamer to have access at another color for possible options to think about, we do have TK in Izzy, where it's rewarding us for maintaining a high-level Digimon on our field, on top of the fact that it has some extra DP reduction capabilities. Or if you wanted to be really cute and cheeky, you could even think about running the Sue package with Lotmon, just because Sue's going to help play our Lotmon, then our Lotmons have some good on-play effects, and Sue also is going to act as a good source of card draw when our security is low enough. Then the Lotmons that we want to utilize off of Sue is going to be the BT3 Lotmon for some extra consistency, and the EX2 Lotmon as an alternative way to be able to recover. And then this little package does give us access to the EX2 Intilamon as a really good level 5 to warp it into if we're using it with the Sue package. But in terms of some other really good level 3 Digimon that we could think about running, we do have another Floodgate to try to stop and limit some of the opponent's actions. And then we have some more consistency cards to try to help dig out our tamers. So we do have the BT10 version of Renamon that also could help look for our plugins if we're utilizing any plugins. And then similarly, we also have Bokomon as a white Digimon that just makes our evolution into our tamers memory efficient, and also is going to be helping look for our hybrids and a tamer from our deck, which is still pretty decent. And then we do have some pretty decent blue Digimon that we could splash into the deck to try to make the DNA play into Shikuamon a little bit more viable. So we do have Pegasusmon that could Digivolve cheaply off of our Patamon, on top of him having the Armor Purge, on top of him adding extra instances of Security Tech minus for our Venusmon to take advantage of. Or if we're just trying to go for a more hardcore security and recovery style of approach, then we could think about splashing in the Quadramon from the starter deck, just because the blue Quadramon can pop out of the security and help us draw some extra cards, while also being that blue Digimon to DNA into Shikuamon with. Or you could forego Shikuamon and try some other level 5 Digimon. So we do have the Rise package as another package to think about incorporating, just because the BT2 Rise Greymon will help us play our Tamers, which getting our Tamers set up is really, really valuable, on top of his inheritable ability to try to make whatever's Digivolving on top of him a little bit more aggressive. And one of the better cards to combo with the Rise Greymon is going to be Rise Greymon X Antibody to act as another source of red, on top of playing another tamer for free, on top of having some good DP reduction and increasing his own DP all in one card, basically making him a pseudo level 6. But we also still do have some other level 6s that we could think about playing, so we could think about utilizing Tsukuyamon Maid Mode. Or if you just want to go back to something a little bit more basic, we could think about running Ophanimon Fall Down Mode as just a really good card to help us generically recover, while also being really annoying with its on-delete ability to keep some constant pressure on the opponent by having it replace itself. And then yellow just has a whole bunch of various different options that you could think about utilizing, all depending on how you build the deck and the cards you want to incorporate. So that's all I really have for this video. As always, feel free to tell me your thoughts down in the comments below, and down in the description below are a couple of different ways you could support me and the channel. So I do have a TCG Player affiliate link, so when you use that link to buy cards off of TCG Player, then some of that money will go to supporting me and the channel. I also do make and sell playmats over on Overcard Gamers on Facebook, so when you buy a playmat with my design, then some of that money will also go to help supporting me and the channel. And on top of all of that, I do have a Twitch account over on twitch.tv/Zenitsu, so giving me a follow and a subscription also helps support me there, and I do play Digimon on top of various other games on that platform as well. So thank you everyone for watching, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you in the next video.